see in this picture that I'm showing you right now, it's me sitting on a bridge somewhere after Willow Creek. I think it's the bridge over Mud Creek, and I'm reading a book. And this is the book that I'm reading on that picture, and it's inscribed. And if you look at it on the inside, I'll show you the detail on the inside. But read on the North Boundary Trail, Jasper, between August 10th to 18th, 1994. So. And my own adventure, Marty. So, you know, who knew back then how far I would take hiking? But yeah, Tolkien, the Hobbit, was with me on my first adventure. Hey Ray, I'm glad you're here. You can help me do something.
What are we doing?
I'm recreating the backpack that I used to carry back in 1995, last time I did the South Boundary, and I loaded it to show people what it, actually the North Boundary, and I loaded it. I want to show people what it looked like, but that thing is so heavy right now, I want to weigh it. So come help me weigh it. Oh, I know. If I remember correctly, I reloaded it, so I still have all that gear from the good old days, so I reloaded it, and I think it weighs about 50 pounds. Just try and pick it up. Pretty insane, isn't it?
Yeah.
Would you want to walk 150 kilometers with that on your back?
No.
The first few days are very hard. Use the old scale that we use for suitcases when the airlines don't allow you more than 50 pounds. Put it on there. Put it the other way. Okay, that's fine. And then hook it up, Ray. Oh, that's good enough. That's good enough. 55 pounds. Oh my God. The pack is lousy. The weight is brutally heavy. Oh my God, this pack does not feel good. Yeah. 55 pounds. So I just I'm gonna take this apart inside the house and just show you some of the old gear that I had. So this is my 1995 setup. I'll show you pictures. I still have the pictures from those days, and you can see most of the gear that I'm gonna show you from the pictures in 1995. And then as part of this, I'm just gonna do like a 3 or 4 part series, quick video. I'm gonna show you the evolution of some of the gear since 1995. So I'm gonna show you the evolution of sleeping systems, mattresses and sleeping bags, the evolution of cooking gear, the evolution of GPSs and things like that. So hope you enjoy this video. Yes, I get it. That was all a little bit of silliness on my part. I didn't have to go to the shop to weigh my pack, but you know, YouTube is all about trying to be creative and keep finding new ways to do things. So yeah, what I want to, I said this, I've been wanting to do this for a while. I mean, coming up in June will be the 35th anniversary. So June 6th to 11th, 1985 is when I did my first hike. And I was looking through old pictures, and you know, these will be posted on the, I'll put proper pictures of these while they're on the video. You can see them on the video. But you know, when I was looking at these old pictures, I realized I still have all this gear, and I'm not a gearhead. A lot of people, a lot of guys out there and gals like to review gear. I'm not a gearhead. I buy gear when I need new gear because something breaks. You know, I had the same tent for 15 years. I've had my MSR cook set for a long time. I am buying newer stuff. I am trying to go lightweight because I'm getting into pack rafting, and the pack raft adds another 10 pounds to my gear. So I have to try and shave 10 pounds somewhere. But fundamentally, I'm not a gearhead. I'm not a guy who goes out and buys new gear every 6 months just for the sake of it. But I do have quite a bit of gear, and I thought it'd be interesting to show you folks what gear looked like in 1995 when these pictures were taken, and what it looks like today. So before I get into the whole series, let's just unpack my pack from 1995 and show you some of that gear. All right. Look at this beast. Look at this beast. This pack is a Camp Trails, and I'll focus on it, but it's a single compartment. It doesn't even zip in at the bottom. And I remember, I mean, the belt is not that comfortable. This pack has done a lot of miles with me. I remember walking and I remember the day I did the week or so that I did the North Boundary with this, 55 to 60 pound beast, and putting a branch over my shoulder and lifting, because those first few days were so incredibly heavy. So let's empty the pack and show you what I was carrying in those days. So I have a video I'll show, actually in part of the video I'll show you something from years ago when I actually took this out and assembled it in the living room. This is a Eureka tent. I don't even know what model it is, but just to show you just to talk about it briefly, I mean, it weighs a ton. This was the first tent that I bought. My very first tent was a cheap nylon red with a blue tarp, what I call a Canadian Tire Special, which is a Canadian hardware store, and that tent was about a $10 tent. So this was the first sort of brand name tent that I bought, and I'm just going to put it on a scale here, and you'll have to trust me, or I'll show you guys in a second. 2.8 kilograms. Wow, 2.8 kilograms. I'll do the math, and roughly it's 3 kilograms. It's almost 6 pounds. 6 pounds for a two-man tent. All right, we're gonna do this real time. I haven't set up this tent in I'd say a good decade, more than a decade probably. Actually, I just turned it around because the door was the wrong way, but for its weight, it's actually a humongously spacious tent, It's very spacious. I could lift, there's one hole. I bet you it's still waterproof, and that's another comment I get. I don't use a ground tarp. The other tent, the tadpole, I have at least 300 days of sleeping in a tadpole in every kind of weather, and I've never used a ground sheet for it. So, this tent, it's flimsy, is what it is. It kind of wanted to collapse on itself. But it was a great idea for, this was probably one of the original two-pole designs. And then the tarp for this one is very easy. This tent actually served me well over the years, and it is an extremely spacious tent. It's a nylon tent. It's a very simple, straightforward nylon tent with two poles, and you can see it in the video when I'm assembling it, but I just want to show something. The poles alone for this thing are fiberglass, and Easton aluminum poles did not exist. Just a single pole, just one pole weighs 338 grams, so almost a pound for just one pole, and there's 3 of them to assemble the tent. So you'll see in the video, this was, I carried this proudly. Now the next part of the setup that I want to show you is the thermarest. And like many people in the very early beginnings, I used a cheap foam mattress, but eventually I got a thermarest. Actually, I should weigh this thermarest just before. So the thermarest, this thermarest weighs 685 grams. But check this out. In order to save weight, this is barely at a half length. It's just, they call it a 3/4 length, but it's a half length thermarest. It's about half length. So to save weight, I would just inflate this underneath my back, and my feet would still be on the ground. So, and this is supposedly a self-inflating one. It will not self-inflate these days, but if you inflate this, trust me, the thickness is not much more than half an inch to maybe 3/4 of an inch. So that was part of the sleep system in those days, was a thermarest. In the video, these aren't the boots that I'm wearing in the video, but in the video, in the picture, I'm wearing these. Well, you'll see I'm wearing work boots, and I remember I was wearing work boots because my employer, I had to buy work boots for work, and so I was cheap. I was barely out of university. I graduated in 1991, so by 1994, I was still paying off a lot of debt and not very rich. So I hiked in a pair of steel-toed work boots, and that concept is crazy. And I remember the blisters I had and how painful it was. You know, not an experience. Pretty shortly after that, I replaced my boots and finally got a pair of boots. But just a pair of steel-toed boots is an insane proposition today. Now I have pictures where I have an old round canteen on the back of my backpack, but in these videos, again on the side of on this picture, and I'll put the picture up on the screen, you can see that I had this Reliance brand canteen. It's like a 1 liter canteen, and I mean, this thing was on my hip for many years. And today, you know, everybody's using smart bottles and Nalgene bottles. In no particular order, but I'm just pulling out things. And again, in some of the pictures, not on these pictures, but in another picture, it'll show the rope. So this is the rope. This is rope that I carried with me. It's very dusty, and it's not that cheap yellow rope. It's a good rope. I actually braided the end here. So again, the idea of we had cheap plastic rope, you know, that yellow stuff, but I wouldn't have known to go looking for paracord or things like that. I mean, this weighs, well, I'll weigh it real quick. 336 grams. Now, this is perhaps one of my favorite old pieces of gear, just to reminisce on this. So one of the areas over the years that really improved a lot is on clothing. You know, even now I'm wearing a Columbia titanium synthetic shirt, but you know, this, you'll see in one of the pictures, this towel is hanging. I mean, look at this thing. This is, I would have brought this out with me. I still have it. It's sort of a keepsake. A towel. Wool cut off gloves. I don't know why I used to like these so much, but wool. And then, of course, I feature. So the one piece of synthetic clothing I had in those days was my beautiful North Face shirt that I still own. This shirt has been with me for 30 years, and I still wear it, and it's indestructible. But more commonly in those days, I would have just worn a plain old cotton t-shirt, and everybody knows that there's nothing worse than a cotton t-shirt. Trying to hang a cotton t-shirt at the end of the day, cotton just doesn't dry like synthetic. I had synthetic pants, but you'll see in the picture I'm also wearing army surplus pants, which weighed a ton. And then, of course, I had a blue sweater in those days. This is actually a a sentimental sweater. This is a sweater that my neighbor in Fox Creek, a nice old lady, older lady, sorry, knitted this for me. She had, so I took a sweater like this on many trips. But you know, the idea of a and there's nothing else in there. I would have had cotton socks and cotton and wool socks, but we didn't have access to the Mountain Equipment Co-op or stores that we take for granted today. Selection was limited. If you ordered stuff, you ordered it online, and you got what you got. I tell people that I seldom carried flashlights in the good old days. Here's a mag light. And reason mag light, I didn't bring flashlights very often. I would have on a longer trip, is because they take 2 AA batteries, so the weight of this thing with 2 AA batteries is significant. And the other thing is all you have is one incandescent light bulb on the end and a spare. There used to be a spare in the bottom here, still is. This thing throws barely enough light for the weight that you carry. So the weight to benefit ratio of this thing is minimal. So I very seldom would have brought a flashlight. Now this is perhaps the coolest piece of gear that I still have, and it works, but it's crooked and it's damaged. But check this out. You know, this is my first canister stove, and I remember it's the Bleuet camping gas stove. And check this out. Once you puncture this, you cannot reseal it. So what we would do is you would put the canister in the bottom and then screw the stove on top, and then it would puncture the canister. This is still full. I'm taking a chance opening it, but it punctured the hole, and then you had to keep the canister going. And then it even came with a base. And I'm just going to weigh this whole assembly as is, just for crazy. Now I'll do close-ups, but 610 grams. 610 grams. Wait till I do the follow-up series where I show the evolution of stoves. I mean, this is insane by today's standards. And I still got an empty canister. But hand in hand with the fact that I had my stove is the fact that I also still own and use quite frequently my MSR Alpine set. Now, %10 propane. Now, in the pictures, you can see I have 2 of these little aluminum pots. Now, I don't have the rest of the pots, but this came from a Cub Scout kit. Here's a picture of one of those kits. And what it was a bottom frying pan, a top plate. This went inside, and then you also had a cup. And I still have one of those cups. You've seen... You've seen these cups, so I've this little Cub Scout cook set came, so I still have one of these pots. Subsequently, I replaced it with a stainless steel pot, but you'll see the evolution. This is aluminum, which fell out of favor a long time ago, and of course a Lexan spoon. And I would bring a bowl in those days, and in the picture it's you'll see a yellow bowl, but I had a white and a yellow plastic bowl, and of course my trusted cup. I have several of these. This one I got for free from Oil Week magazine. Again, I didn't go out of my way to buy gear. I would get free gear or find something around the house that was suitable and use it. So, and that's something I still encourage people. You can go out hiking. You don't have to, on day one, to go start and buy $500 worth of gear. You'd be surprised at what you can find around the house that is suitable. And then here's a sleeping bag that I took on that trip. And you can barely see it, but it's the Trek, T-R-E-K-K, and it's the cycle model, promoted as the one you took cycling. And again, if I do a quick weight of this thing, 1,490 grams, so 1.5 kilogram, which is almost 3 pounds. 3 pounds for a sleeping bag that honestly had a rating of about 5 degrees Celsius. And I remember on that trip freezing every night and staying up by the fire as late as possible because it was so cold. And this is just a square sleeping bag with a thin lining of insulation, basically, and nothing fancy to this. Today, by today's standards, this is almost a liner, is what it is, but it's very heavy and did not provide a lot of insulation. So between being on the ground and having a small 3/4 length thermarest that was 1/2 inch thick, and this, it wasn't very comfortable sleeping. But that's the other thing that lots of people need to understand about hiking is you're not matching the comforts of home. You have to, you can't go, I've said it many times, you can't go, you have to lower your expectations. You're going to be cold, you're going to eat less calories, it might not be as tasty as home, you're going to be wet, you're going to be uncomfortable, you're going to have bugs and things like that, but you can't completely replicate the experience of being at home, and nor would you want to, or maybe you do, but I would not want to. So there you go. So there you have it, just a quick review of what my pack looked like in 1994 when I did the north boundary. Didn't break out the food. The food wasn't fundamentally much different than it is today. Pre-packaged dehydrated foods existed on a trip like that. I would have brought a cup of soups and rice, and I would have eaten well. And smokies, the same things that I currently bring. Noticeably missing are things like no headlamp, that would have been too heavy. No GPS, did not exist. No water filter, existed but unreliable. What else was missing? No folding chair, no espresso machine, no coffee filters, no InReach. Oh, bear spray. There's a bear spray that you saw hanging on there. I don't think I would have brought a bear spray, actually. Maybe they didn't even exist. I don't think I would have brought a bear spray. Anyways, there you go. Hope you enjoyed that. So now part 2, 3, 4, 5 of this series is I will do a little more in-depth review of the evolution of different pieces. So the evolution of sleeping gear, cooking gear, tents, and a few things like that. So if you enjoyed this, give me a big like, hit that subscribe button, and by all means provide me lots of comments.